Does Roy Jones Jr. hate Floyd Mayweather Jr.? I'm watching Andre Ward and Roy Jones Jr. Hall of Game, which is I believe is a part of the all you can not all you can eat, all the smoke fight podcast. I believe it's an entity from Andre Ward's Art of Ward. Um, and they just put out an interview where they, interviewed Devin Haney and Abdullah Mason on their upcoming fights this weekend. And then his second segment was talking about Manny Pacquiao and Floyd Mayweather having a rematch coming next year and what he thought about it. And one of the things that popped out to me, which I'm actually in the process of watching it. So, I ain't doing my intro. What's good, fight fans? Your Majesty speaking. Yeah. So I'm gonna let y'all hear what Roy Jones Jr. had to say, and I'm gonna explain why I believe he just don't like him. A lot of the stuff that Roy Jones is saying is kind of contradictory, especially if we look at his career in comparison to Floyd Mayweather's and other people who he big up their career in comparison to Floyd Mayweather. It's weird and it kind of don't make a lot of sense. So it kind of come off as hating. And don't get me wrong, I'm one of those people who I don't always think because somebody don't like what I'm doing or what somebody else may be doing that they hating. To me, shit, if you don't like it, you don't like it. It don't mean you hating. You know what I'm saying? But when you start to be contradictory or contradiction towards the things you're saying when it comes to Floyd, but you okayed it with it when it comes to other fighters, then that's when I can start to look at it and deem it as you kind of hating. You know what I'm saying? But let's listen to see what he say. Let's listen.
Would have even been different. I don't know that for a fact, but I'm just saying that.
Hold on.
Manny Pacquiao, Floyd Mayweather happens 3 years, 4 years earlier. What's that outcome? I don't know the outcome. I'm not going to say the outcome would have even been different. I don't know that for a fact, but I'm just saying that that was the time to really go out and show and tell because Pacquiao was at his peak. That was the time to go out and get it. You understand? If you're going to show it that you can beat him at his peak. Don't beat him after getting knocked out because that don't count now in the real book. You feel me? You waited till after you got knocked out. That doesn't say much for us. For real people, you know what I mean? I'm not, like I said, I'm not saying it would have been different. I'm not gonna say.
I'm gonna pause it right there. If I remember correctly, Floyd Mayweather made multiple attempts to make a Manny Pacquiao fight. I'm trying to remember the order. Sometimes I be lost of memory sometimes, but I am chat BJT. So, but if I remember correctly, Floyd initially said, cool, we can make the fight. Take this random blood and urine testing or whatever the case may be, and we got to fight. Manny Pacquiao came back with the I'm afraid of needles or whatever the case may be. Fight went downhill. Then, if I'm not mistaken, Floyd made another attempt to where he said, look, I'll wire you the $40 million or the whatever, whether it was 20 million today and 40 million during or some shit, whatever it was. Floyd made multiple attempts to fight Manny Pacquiao before he got knocked out by Marquez. So it's fun, and it's also funny to me how people make it seem like him getting knocked out by Marquez is what made Floyd feel like he could beat him. I'm gonna let him continue because I want to hear what else he's gonna say before I say what I'm gonna say. Let me hear what he's saying.
I don't know that he could have beat Floyd. I'm not saying that. You know, I'm not, like I said, people think I'm a Floyd Mayweather hater. No, I'm not. Not a hater at all. I'm just telling what the facts are. You understand me? Only reason I say the things that I say is because I know what the facts are. And the way I look at people and the way I've been in this thing a long time before him, before a lot of people. I know from what I saw. And what I saw people do before me was challenge themselves. And I know when you challenge yourself. Well, we're going to see if Maypac 2 happens, how this thing is going to end. The money man.
Let me hold on. Let me make sure that I ain't missing
Floyd
nothing.
Mayweather seems to be on the money hunt again. And Manny Pacquiao seems to be on a revenge tour many, many years later, 10 years later, still trying to get some get back for that first fight. So we'll see if it happens. I want it to happen. And I'm excited to see if it happens.
Okay, so that I'm assuming that was it. Like I said, this is my first time watching it, but if I'm not mistaken, I saw something else where it seemed like he was kind of being contradictory, pretty much saying that Floyd don't get credit for beating Manny Pacquiao because he didn't fight Manny when Manny was at his best. If that's the case, then we got to kind of look at all of these other fights where people fought people after something tragic happened or after they got knocked out or whatever the case may be. And based on what he's saying, we can't give Bud credit for beating Earl Spence because Spence had a dramatic car accident. We can't give Bud credit for beating Canelo because he had already lost bad to Bivol and Floyd Mayweather. It just comes to a point where you start looking at how he critiques Floyd Mayweather. And maybe it's just me, but I grew up primetime 90s when Roy Jones Jr. was at his peak and Floyd Mayweather was almost like the little brother on the come up. And there was a point in time, don't get me wrong, Roy Jones Jr. was one of my favorites, if not my favorite at the time, because Tyson was kind of on the downfall, and I was a huge Tyson fan and a huge Bo fan, and Bo was, at the point where he had getting low blow by Galata, and on the downside of his career as well. And Roy Jones at that point was that guy. Even when Floyd was good, Roy was so good that Floyd was kind of under the radar. And so, and these are just my thoughts. I don't want nobody I ain't saying this is what Roy said. I'm not saying none of that. It's just my thoughts on my perception of what I see and what I feel like the issue is. I think Roy Jones did challenge himself early. I will say that with the Bernard Hopkins early on in his career, which was actually on the undercard of a Riddick Bowe fight, and also the James Toney fight early on in his career. Kudos. But we can't, and what he initially said, I heard it somewhere, I gotta find it, but what he initially said was Floyd never challenged himself. He ran away from challenges or whatever the case may be. I happen to disagree. I've watched Floyd's whole career. I'm old enough to remember how much of a killer Diego Corrales was and what the narrative was at that time when he was supposed to be the guy to whoop Floyd's ASS, right? So, and Floyd stepped up and took that fight and dominated. You know what I'm saying? A fresh Diego Corrales. So bad to the point where he dropped him 5 or 6 times and barely got touched. You look at Floyd taking on Angel Man Freddy. Like a lot of these names, when you look back in hindsight, people were like, oh, Angel Man Freddy, but Angel Man Freddy was that at the time when Floyd, fought him, and I think he stopped him in 2 rounds. Floyd took on challenges and wanted to take on challenges, but those guys did not fight him. Shane Mosley being one. He had a De La Hoya fight that he would much rather take, and guess what? I don't blame him. But we can't sit up here and make it seem like Floyd did not challenge himself. Fighting a young Canelo at 23 years old, call it what you want, when he's 36, almost 37 years old, to me, that is a challenge. Even going up and fighting Miguel Cotto, I guess that win don't count either because he was knocked out by Pacquiao before Floyd fought him. He was knocked out by Pacquiao, so I'm assuming Roy will say that fight don't count either. But if that's the case, you give Bud a lot of credit, but Bud beat Amir Khan, who was already knocked out. Bud beat Kell Brook, who was already knocked out. I hate when people try to pick apart resumes, because in reality, you can real life do that to anybody fighting, unless you got somebody on there who's beat every fighter that they fought at their prime, which you don't. You can pick apart everybody's resume. So the reason why I feel like Roy is hating is because I believe Roy had an opportunity, had he been smart enough to stop. Roy loves boxing so much that his competitive nature didn't allow him to stop boxing when he probably should have. And I believe he regrets not stopping after Tarver 1, because had Roy Jones stopped after Tarver 1, 9 times out of 10, we would be looking at Roy Jones as, and some people still remember his glory days, but I'm pretty sure if Roy Jones stopped after the first Tarver fight, we would be probably looking at Roy Jones as the greatest fighter to ever live, because athleticism-wise, I've never seen anybody like him. Then the fact that he conquered from 154 all the way up to heavyweight, even though, once again, I can pick apart your resume. You fought John Ruiz, the weakest champion of them all, but I don't like doing that, because I feel like you give boxing a bad name when you start picking apart resumes to that extent. When we start talking about the greats, of course, you know, when you younger, we gonna pick apart resumes. You ain't did this, cool. But when you start talking about the niggas that we revere at the top of the sport, I don't like doing that, because nobody is fighting a killer every time out. That's just, unless you're going back in the Jack Johnson days or whatever the case may be back then. Nowadays, nobody is fighting killers every time out. So it's kind of stupid to pick apart resumes when we can go look at everybody's resume and talk trash about it. So my belief is that Roy Jones does not like the fact that Floyd Mayweather became what he probably should have become. And so when when Roy Jones was at that mountaintop and he was looking down, or maybe not even looking down, but Floyd was looking up, and then Floyd surpassed him, and now Floyd can hang his hat on, I did what you were supposed to do, which was finish and retire undefeated. Granted, we know he lost to Montel Griffin by disqualification, and that was bull crap. We all know that. But I think people, the way he came back and dominated Montel Griffin in that second fight, nobody would have cared about that disqualification loss. We would have looked at Roy Jones as an undefeated fighter. I think he regrets and he hates the fact that Floyd Mayweather can say, I'm the greatest of all time. And he has a claim to it, regardless of what you want to say. As long as we talking about what's being done in that ring, Floyd got a claim to being the greatest of all time. Yes, I understand you are an Ali fan. I understand that Ali did what he did back in the 60s for the black community and for standing up for himself when it came to the military and all that stuff. But specifically talking about inside that ring, Floyd Mayweather got a claim to be one of the greatest to ever do it. And like it or not, it's the truth. And guess what? Not only do he got the skills to back it up, but he got the resume to back it up. He got the undefeated record to back it up. And I believe Roy Jones does not like it. I believe Roy Jones wishes it was him. I believe he wishes he's the one that can say, I broke all the pay-per-view records. I'm the cash cow. I've never lost. 50 tried, 50 lost, whatever the case may be, however you want to put it. I don't want to be Devin Haney and quote and copycat and all that other shit. But I'm just saying, I believe that Roy, and then not to mention Floyd put up the video of him getting knocked out over and over and over. And I think to some degree he's salty about it. And so now every chance he get, he gonna take a shot at Floyd. And that's just my belief. Let me know what y'all think in the comments. If you have not subscribed to the channel, please do so. Also, hit the notification bell so that you can be notified when I drop future videos, and share the video. Also, if you have not followed my social medias, please do so. They are in front of you. And until next time.